There comes a time in life when the very thing that was meant to break you, the very thing that was designed to crush your spirit, becomes the very platform on which you rise. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is not a signal that you are finished. Pain is the proof that something in you is still alive, still fighting, still reaching for more. If you've ever cried yourself to sleep, if you've ever walked through the valley of disappointment, if you've ever felt the sting of betrayal or the weight of loss, then you know pain has a language all its own. It speaks loudly. It screams that life is unfair, that people will leave, that dreams will fall apart. But if you learn to listen beneath the noise, pain carries another message. Pain whispers, there's more in you than you think. You are stronger than you believe. You can endure and you can rise. Every scar you carry is a testimony. Every tear you've shed is a seed planted in the soil of your destiny. You may think your suffering was wasted, that the season of struggle had no meaning, but what if the very thing that wounded you was preparing you for the weight of what's coming? What if the rejection you faced was actually redirection towards something greater? What if the heartbreak that tore you apart was the very tool that shaped the compassion, the wisdom, and the fire you need for your purpose? You cannot separate power from pain, because it is in the pressing, in the crushing, in the breaking that the oil flows. Diamonds are only made under pressure, gold is only purified in fire, and you are no different. Stop running from your pain, stop resenting the process, because hidden inside that suffering is a strength you never knew you had. Life has a way of squeezing out of us what comfort could never reveal. Some of the greatest warriors, the boldest leaders, the strongest survivors are not people who had it easy, but people who took their pain and turned it into power. They refused to let the storm define them, and instead, they allowed it to refine them. That's your calling. That's your challenge. You can either let the weight crush you, or you can use it to build muscles that will carry you into your next season. When you look back over your life, you will see that every valley was connected to a mountain. Every breakdown carried the seed of a breakthrough, and every dark night was leading to a brighter morning. Don't waste your pain by wallowing in it. Don't let your story stop at the chapter of struggle. Use it, harness it, transform it. Your pain was never meant to bury you. It was meant to birth you. Pain is one of the greatest teachers you will ever encounter, though it rarely introduces itself gently. It storms in without permission. It interrupts the flow of life. It shatters routines and expectations, and it shakes the very foundation of who you thought you were. You never plan for it. You never schedule it. But somehow it always finds its way into the human experience. And yet, though pain is an uninvited guest, it has a purpose. It digs deep into the hidden places of your soul, pulling out what comfort never could, drawing forth strength that ease could never demand. Pain reveals you to yourself. It uncovers what is weak and calls for what is strong. It pulls back the curtain on false securities and demands that you reach for something deeper, something eternal, something unshakable. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the sting of disappointment. The job you worked for that slipped through your fingers, the relationship you poured into that ended in betrayal, the dreams that looked promising but suddenly collapsed under the weight of reality. In those moments, pain felt like it was stealing everything you had. But what if it was actually handing you something greater? What if it was stripping away the illusion so you could grasp the truth? What if it was carving out space in you so you could hold the very thing you prayed for? Pain is not always subtraction. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes it is addition disguised as loss. Sometimes what feels like the end is actually the beginning of a chapter that required this level of breaking to be born. When you understand that, you stop asking why, and you start asking what. What is this pain trying to teach me? What strength is it birthing in me? What resilience is it shaping? The most powerful people in this world are not those who never bled, never cried, never suffered. They are the ones who decided that their scars would not silence them. They are the ones who said, I will not be defined by the wound, but by the wisdom it left behind. You cannot truly carry power until you have carried pain. The weight of influence requires the weight of endurance. Without the breaking, the oil cannot flow. Without the pressure, the diamond cannot shine. Without the fire, the gold cannot be purified. So many want power without process, but there is no shortcut. If you ask for strength, life will give you resistance. If you ask for wisdom, life will give you lessons wrapped in failure. If you ask for resilience, life will put you in storms that test your very foundation. You cannot receive one without embracing the other. Pain is the soil in which power grows. You must learn to embrace it, not as a punishment but as a passage, not as the end of your story, but as the very chapter that transforms your character. Your tears are not wasted. Your sleepless nights are not wasted. Your moments of wondering if you would survive are not wasted. They are the evidence that you are being stretched, expanded, shaped for something beyond where you are now. Every sleepless night taught you empathy for someone else's struggle. Every broken promise built a wisdom in you that cannot be faked. Every loss carved out a space for gratitude that comfort could never provide. This is the hidden gift of pain. It builds in you the very qualities you will need to sustain your destiny. You are stronger than you think because life has been training you in silence. It has been equipping you in moments you thought were wasted. It has been depositing strength where you only saw sorrow. What felt like devastation was actually preparation. What looked like defeat was actually the groundwork for power. There is a mystery hidden in pain that most people overlook because they are too consumed with escaping it. They numb it, deny it, drown it, or distract themselves from it, not realizing that pain has a message coded inside it that can unlock the next level of their destiny. Pain is never random. It comes to reveal, to shift, to push, and to prepare. It may arrive in the form of betrayal, loss, failure, or disappointment, but beneath the surface it is shaping something powerful. If you only see pain as an enemy, you will miss the treasure it carries. Pain comes to strip away illusions. It takes away the comfort zones you've built, the false identities you've clung to, and the people you depended on who were never meant to stay. Pain forces you to confront truth. It makes you deal with what is real instead of what is easy. Think about how seeds are planted. The seed goes into the ground, into the darkness, buried where no one can see it. The soil presses on it, the rain soaks it, and the environment seems hostile. But that pressure is the only way the seed breaks open and begins to grow. If you judge the process too soon, you will think the seed is being destroyed, when in reality it is being transformed. Your pain is that soil pressing you, breaking you open, pushing you beyond what you thought possible so that something new can come forth. What feels like destruction is often construction. What feels like the end is often the beginning. You are not being buried, you are being planted. It is only in pain that you discover the depth of your strength. It is only in the storm that you learn how sturdy your foundation really is. People who live in comfort never truly know themselves, but people who have been pressed, broken, and tested find out what they are made of. Pain introduces you to your hidden self. It awakens courage you never thought you had. It stirs creativity you didn't know was in you. It brings out resilience that only fire could forge. The person you were before pain is not the same person you become after walking through it. You emerge wiser, stronger, and sharper. Do not despise the season that stretched you, because stretching always precedes strength. Look back at the battles you've survived. The moments you thought would kill you became the very evidence that you are still standing. You may not have chosen the pain, but you can choose what it produces in you. You can decide that instead of letting it make you bitter, you will let it make you better. Instead of letting it paralyze you, you will let it propel you. Instead of letting it shrink you, you will let it shape you. That is how pain turns into power. It is not automatic. It requires a decision. Every powerful person has a story that involves struggle. Every testimony is rooted in a test. Every calling is forged in conflict. If you want the strength to carry greatness, you must be willing to endure the weight of pain. You cannot carry influence without carrying scars, because scars are proof that you survived what should have destroyed you. And your scars speak louder than your words, because people can argue with your opinions, but they cannot argue with your survival. Your life becomes living evidence that pain can be transformed into power. Your greatest weapon is not what you gained in easy seasons, but what you gained in broken ones. It is not the applause that shaped you, but the rejection. It is not the comfort that trained you, but the struggle. It is not the sunshine that built you, but the storm. And while others may see only the wound, you will know that out of that wound came wisdom, out of that loss came resilience, and out of that pressure came power. There are moments in life when the weight of pain feels so overwhelming that you wonder if you will ever rise again. It presses on your chest like a heavy stone. It lingers in your thoughts like a shadow that won't fade, and it whispers lies that you are finished, forgotten, and forsaken. But what you must understand is that pain is not here to announce your end. It is here to announce your evolution. It is the shaking that loosens what no longer belongs. It is the breaking that releases what could not survive the next level. It is the fire that burns away what is not pure, so that what remains is unshakable. Pain does not come to prove you are weak. It comes to reveal that you are stronger than you think. When you are in the middle of it, pain convinces you that it is permanent. It makes you believe that the storm will never pass, that the wound will never heal, that the tears will never stop. But everything you are walking through is temporary. No season lasts forever. No night lasts without morning. No storm can reign without end. Pain may visit, but it does not have the authority to stay unless you allow it to. The key is to shift your perspective. Instead of asking why me, begin to ask what now. Instead of asking when will this end, begin to ask what can I learn. Pain becomes powerful the moment you stop resisting it and start redeeming it. Look at the patterns of life itself. Muscles do not grow without being torn. Trees do not grow deep roots without enduring storms. Children are not born without travail. Power is always the offspring of pain. The very things you thought would kill you are often the very things that prepare you for greatness. That betrayal was not just rejection, it was protection from what could have destroyed you. That failure was not final, it was a redirection to something better. That loss you thought you could not endure was the very ground on which resilience was planted in your soul. If you trace the thread of your story, you will see that every painful season was actually a stepping stone toward something greater. The truth is, pain is a refiner. It exposes what is fragile and strengthens what is enduring. It reveals where your faith is anchored. It forces you to decide whether you will collapse or rise, whether you will retreat or advance. Pain pushes you to the edge of yourself, and it is at that edge where you discover the vastness of your potential. You learn that you are not defined by what happened to you, but by how you respond to it. You discover that your identity is not in the wound, but in the wisdom it birthed. You realize that your strength does not come from avoiding battles, but from surviving them. The greatest victories are often born out of the fiercest struggles. Every time you thought you would not make it, but somehow you did, that was not just survival. That was the birth of power. Every time you got back up after being knocked down, every time you kept moving with tears streaming down your face, every time you chose to hope in the middle of heartbreak, you were proving that your pain was producing power. That is why you cannot despise the struggle, because the struggle is evidence that something inside you refuses to die. Your pain is not wasted. It is shaping you, stretching you, and preparing you for a season where your story will give others strength. What you endured will become the testimony that sets someone else free. The same weight that tried to crush you will be the platform you stand on to lift others. This is how pain turns into power, when you realize that your scars are not symbols of shame, but symbols of survival. They are not reminders of where you fell, but proof of how far you've come.